In the sleepy town of Greywood, nestled between the thick, mist-covered forests of the north and the whispering waves of the southern lake, an unsettling rumor had taken root in the minds and hearts of its residents. The rumor spoke of the old church at the town's edge, abandoned for decades, and the ancient statue of an angel that stood guard over its crumbling entrance. Ellie, a journalist with a keen interest in the paranormal, had arrived in Greywood to explore this peculiar tale. Her great-grandfather had once preached in that very church before it was left to decay, following a series of unexplained deaths that whispered curses through the family lines. As Ellie approached the church, the air grew colder and the sky darkened ominously, though it was only mid-afternoon. The church itself was a relic of Gothic architecture, its spires reaching like gnarled fingers into the brooding sky. The statue of the angel was prominently perched above the old wooden door, its features worn by time, but its eyes disturbingly lifelike. With her flashlight leading the way, Ellie stepped inside the church. The smell of mold and decay was overwhelming, and a thick carpet of dust covered everything. Her light flickered over the pews, the altar, and finally the stained glass windows, which depicted scenes of angels descending from heaven. But in the dim light, the angels appeared more like demons swooping down on unsuspecting sinners. Ellie's heart pounded as she recorded everything on her camera. The ambience of the church was oppressive, as if the air itself were trying to squeeze the breath from her lungs. She turned her attention to a small door beside the altar, which led to a narrow spiral staircase descending into darkness. Compelled by a mixture of dread and determination, Ellie descended the stairs. The air grew even colder, the silence broken only by the creaking of her steps and her shallow breathing. At the bottom of the staircase, she found a small, candlelit room filled with statues of various sizes, all depicting the same angel as the one at the entrance, each with a progressively more twisted and malevolent expression. Ellie felt a chill run down her spine as she realized these were not depictions of heavenly guardians, but something far darker. Each statue seemed to watch her, their eyes gleaming faintly in the candlelight. She reached out tentatively to touch the nearest statue, and at that moment, the candles snuffed out, plunging her into darkness. The sound of whispers filled the room, growing louder, more urgent. Ellie spun around, trying to locate the source of the voices, her flashlight beam cutting through the pitch black. The light flickered, and for a split second, it illuminated the statues, now seemingly closer than before. Panicking, Ellie rushed towards the stairs, stumbling in her haste. The whispering grew to a cacophony, echoing off the stone walls. As she reached the stairs, she looked back one last time. The statues were moving, inching forward in the darkness, their expressions twisted in grotesque smirks. Heart racing, Ellie ascended the stairs, hearing the sound of stones scraping against stone below her. She burst out of the church into the fading light, the door slamming shut behind her with a boom that echoed through the empty town. Ellie never looked back as she left Greywood, the haunting images of the statues etched into her memory. The story of her experience spread, turning into whispers of caution against the old church with its cursed statues. The angel at the entrance, once a symbol of protection, now stood as a grim sentinel, guarding secrets too dark for the daylight, forever waiting in the shadows for the next curious soul to dare uncover them. Months passed, but the chilling encounter at the old church haunted Ellie incessantly. She found herself unable to focus on her work, her nights plagued with vivid nightmares of stone eyes watching her every move. In each dream, the statues crept closer, their features warping into ever more malevolent forms. She knew she had left something unresolved in Greywood, something that called to her, pulling her back to that decrepit church. Driven by a mix of fear and an insatiable need for answers, Ellie decided to return to Greywood. This time she came prepared with more equipment, cameras, audio recorders, and even a small team of fellow paranormal enthusiasts who had learned of her previous visit. They arrived as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the church's broken facade. As they set up their equipment, the atmosphere felt heavier than Ellie remembered, charged with a palpable sense of dread. They rigged the church with cameras and sensors, monitoring from a makeshift base outside the van parked near the church's entrance. The statue of the angel seemed to watch them, its gaze following their every move. Night fell completely, and the church was bathed in the glow of their floodlights. Ellie and her team watched the monitors closely, the infrared cameras casting the inside of the church in an eerie green hue. At first, everything was quiet, too quiet. Then, the sensors inside the church began to signal a drop in temperature, and the audio equipment picked up an inexplicable static. Deciding to investigate, Ellie led 2 members of her team inside. They moved slowly through the church, the beams of their flashlights cutting through the overwhelming darkness. As they approached the altar, the temperature dropped sharply, their breaths visible in the frigid air. The door to the basement seemed to beckon to them, an unspoken invitation hanging in the silence. Ellie felt every instinct scream at her to turn away, but she pushed forward, her team trailing hesitantly behind her. As they descended once more into the basement, the door swung shut with a resounding thud, leaving them enveloped in darkness. Using their flashlights, they navigated back to the room filled with statues. To their horror, the statues had changed positions, no longer just facing forward but arranged in a circle as if conducting some silent vigil. In the center of the circle, a new figure had appeared, not made of stone but of wood, ancient and twisted, its face contorted in an eternal scream. The static on their audio gear escalated into whispers, the same whispers Ellie had heard before, now clearer, forming words in an unknown tongue. The air around them felt electric, the shadows cast by the statues stretching unnaturally towards them. Suddenly, one of the cameras they had set up in the room died, followed by another. The darkness seemed to swell, pressing in around them. Ellie's heart raced as she felt an unseen force move through the room. It was as if the statues were breathing, the air pulsating with unspoken threats. Panicked, they rushed towards the staircase, the sound of their footsteps echoing madly. As they reached the top, Ellie dared a glance back. In the dim light remaining from one functioning flashlight, she saw the statues had turned, their faces now openly grotesque, eyes hollow yet alive with malevolent delight. They burst out of the church into the cold night air, the door slamming shut with a violence that shook the ground. Back in the safety of their van, the team was silent, each person processing the terror they had experienced. Ellie knew then that this was not the end. Greywood and its cursed church held deeper secrets, secrets that clung to her, whispering of things yet unseen, stories yet untold. As they drove away, Ellie made a silent vow to uncover the truth of the statues, no matter the cost. The church remained in the distance, a silhouette against the night sky, its angel statue watching as they left, a sentinel guarding the threshold between the known and the unknown. Weeks later, Ellie found herself obsessively poring over ancient texts and interviewing historians about the origins of Greywood's church. She discovered that the church was built atop an older pagan site, rumored to be a place where spirits were both venerated and feared, a gateway between worlds. The angel statue, as it turned out, was originally a pagan idol, later modified to resemble an angel as Christianity spread through the region. With each piece of information, Ellie's determination grew. She organized another expedition to Greywood, this time with a larger team equipped with specialized equipment to document and analyze every detail of the church and its haunting statues. On a particularly stormy night, Ellie and her team set up their equipment once more. As thunder rolled overhead, they initiated a live stream to share their findings with the world in real time. Viewers tuned in from all over, drawn by the story of the moving statues and Ellie's previous terrifying encounters. As the team ventured into the basement, Ellie felt a strange pull towards the wooden figure in the center of the statue circle. This time, the air was charged with a palpable energy, almost electric. The whispers began again, louder than before, forming a chant that seemed to resonate with the very walls of the church. In a sudden moment of clarity, Ellie realized that the wooden figure was not just another statue, but a conduit, a medium through which the spirits of the old pagan gods communicated and exerted their influence. The realization hit her hard. The angel statue was not guarding the church, it was imprisoning something within. Determined to uncover the truth, Ellie approached the wooden figure, her hand trembling as she touched its surface. The room went silent, the whispers stopping abruptly. The air shifted, and the statues, as if released from an invisible hold, crumbled into dust before their eyes. The wooden figure's face changed, the expression morphing from one of torment to peace. As the figure disintegrated, a blinding light filled the room, emanating from where it stood. Ellie and her team shielded their eyes. When the light finally dimmed, they found themselves no longer in the basement, but standing outside the church, the structure itself looking as though it had aged 100 years in a matter of seconds. Confused and shaken, Ellie turned to her camera, still streaming live, to address her viewers. She explained that they had witnessed the unbinding of ancient spirits, trapped for centuries and mistakenly worshipped as celestial guardians. The church now stood quiet, its oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of calm serenity. But as they prepared to leave, Ellie caught a glimpse of something that chilled her to the bone. The angel statue at the entrance, presumed to have crumbled like the others, was still intact, gazing down at them with an expression that wasn't there before, a sly, knowing smirk. As the realization dawned on Ellie, the church began to rumble, and the ground beneath them shook. The statue's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Ellie knew then that they had not ended the curse. They had merely changed the keeper of the gate. The angel statue had been biding its time, and now, with the other spirits gone, it had free rein over the power that flowed through the church grounds. As they hurriedly packed their equipment, the live stream caught the angel statue, a final image that would go viral by morning. The church, the statue, and their chilling implications were now bound to Ellie, a story far from over, its true ending hidden in shadows yet to be explored. Thank you for listening to my channel.